How's it going, James? OnlineCarShow.net. Well, in this video, we're going to be painting some car interior parts with some rattle can spray paint. So without hesitation, let's go ahead and get this video started. All right, well, before we dive too deep in the video, we've got some upcoming events and upcoming videos discussed with y'all real quick. We've got 2 car shows coming up Halloween. One is hosted by Showplace Classics. It's an official full-on car show, trophies, raffle, etc. Also, there's Trunk or Treat that's being hosted by Houston Head Turners. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to attend, but I will be at one of them. Also, November 7th, the Serious Wheels Car Show is coming up, hosted by Corvette Owners Club of Houston. It's an open car show for, all makes and models. If y'all are having a hard time navigating my now 196 videos on YouTube, you can use the playlist tab below. I've got everything divided in a playlist, or you can go to OnlineCarShow.net, and I've got a full breakdown of the mod list of every car with video links. As far as upcoming videos we've got coming in the near future, I'm going to be ordering some more Vet Light stuff, so definitely got a mod for that on the way. And of course, I'll be posting some of the events coming up. So be sure, so you don't miss any of that upcoming content, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe below. As I always say, that helps support my channel and helps my videos to grow, and I can't say thank you enough. All right, so now we get to dive into the video at hand. I've been meaning to do this for a long time. I enjoy doing these types of videos. It's real fun, and I always seem to learn something from painting. It's one of the things I've struggled with the most. Painting's kind of an art with anything. With that being said, I'm not a professional painter. I'm not a body shop guy. I'm just a guy doing this stuff out of my garage. So if you have, a comment or something that I should have done better, please go ahead and put it in the comments below. It, help others learn from it. All right, well, let's go over planning, because I feel that's one of the actually most important parts of the whole deal. As far as the car itself and what we're going to be painting, you do want to be tasteful. Doing too much, you're going to be accused of being a ricer. That is definitely not what you want. So let's go ahead and go over what I'm going to go paint and just kind of give it a little touch. And you can always go back later and paint more as you need. What I'm deciding to go with, I'm not a big fan of the silver accents that are in the car. I think we could change these to match the body color and be pretty good. I'm going to opt to paint the e-brake button here. Also, you can see it on the door release button here. I'm going to paint that, as well as the door release here. And just to add a little more color to it, bring everything in. This panel right here, the cover over these buttons does come off fairly easy, so I'm going to remove that on both sides and paint it. All right, well, let's go over real quickly the tools we're going to need for the job. So you can see it's a whole bunch. Let's start here with the chemicals. I've got some all-purpose cleaner. Also, as far as cleaners, there's 2 options you can go with as far as a degreaser and wax remover on the interior pieces. I went ahead and I'm going to try this grease and wax remover from Duplicolor. It's a cleaner. It's safe to use on these interior pieces. If you don't have access to this or don't want to spend the money, just some 70% or greater isopropyl alcohol. Make sure it's not any color. And some more of the cleaners and polishes here. I've got a kit here from Chemical Guys. This stuff is just polishes. The kit I bought has 4 different levels of polish that are marked, final polish, a hybrid, a cutting polish. I don't have them here, but you're going to need some type of applicator pad. Also some microfiber towels to wipe it off. And then we get on to the paint finally. I'm going to try this Harpy Motors touch-up paint. It's in the exact color as the body of the Corvette. Hey, Beretta. But exact same color as the body of the Corvette, so hopefully it'll work good. I've had mixed results from Duplicolor in the past, so I'm hoping this levels it up a bit. And we've got clear coat. This is one thing I've really had difficulty with, and somebody reached out to me and recommended this. We're going to try it. It's actually got a hardener. You take this little piece of the top off, we're going to slam it down to the bottom and shake it up, and it's supposed to work really good as a rattle can clear coat. Also, we're going to need some tape, painter's tape. Find the lowest adhesive value you can so it doesn't ruin any of the finishes and stuff like that if you have to put it over something that's already painted. Because we're working with interior tools, you are going to need, of course, some interior pry tools to take the pieces off in the interior. We've got 3 different versions right here, and I'll have links to all this stuff below in the description. Also, I bought a pack here of just random sandpapers that are between the grits that we need to do the job. We will be wet sanding and dry sanding. I typically use for painting 300 to start with, and then I'll work my way up to like a 1200 or something before I switch to the polishes. So I'll have a link to a really cool pack you can use in the description, save you some money getting a whole bunch at once. Tacking cloths, this is one thing I find is very important that not a lot of videos out there have, is using a tacking cloth. And what this stuff does is when you use the tacking cloth over, it'll catch any little debris or little bubbles of paint, little balls of paint, if you will, that are forming on the exterior texture. Your results in this are 90% prep, 10% painting. And also, you don't want to go into extremely cool temperatures or extremely hot. If it's over 95 degrees outside, it's probably not a good time to paint. Or if it's below that, I don't know, 50, 60 mark, somewhere in there, be sure you read the back of the directions of all your paint. It should list that, and if you can't find it, go out to the manufacturer's website and you'll get the exact temperatures and stuff they recommend to use their paints. So that about covers the tools. One last thing, our hand grease will also ruin the paint. We don't want to be touching the exterior pieces, especially after we use our cleaner on it. So one thing I highly recommend, you never see me use gloves in any videos, but I highly recommend using gloves when you paint. This keeps your hand oils and greases off what you're painting and gives you a lot better results. And these are real cheap. It's really hard to get them during the pandemic, but I'll put a link in the description. I was able to get them in about a month or so. I was going to try this stuff, grease and wax remover. I found it works really good on whatever surface you're painting, but do not put it on any surface you're not painting. It will actually burn the plastic. All right, well, got the pieces I wanted to paint off the car, the little door pieces and so forth. And I got the little electronics out of the middle of them. You don't want to paint with electronics on it. What we're going to do just to clean these off, since there aren't any electric parts or anything we need to cover up with tape right there, I may go ahead and tape around this enough to cover it up where hopefully no kind of cleaner or stuff will get in there. And I'm also going to put some on the back and back here, just to be safe. Those are the only electronic parts I see anywhere on here. All right, well, I'm going to start with my general all-purpose cleaner. We're just going to spray it liberally on here and then go back, and wipe it off. Make sure you get every little spot. You might even do it 2 or 3 times just to make sure it's good and clean. As you can see, I got it pretty well soaked on there. You don't want to just clean what you're painting, but also clean where the tape is too, because there'll be greases and waxes and stuff there that'll prevent the tape from sticking. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe this off, and then we'll prepare for the cleaner. All right, well, we got everything pretty wiped off. As you can see, I put on my gloves now, keep the grease down to a minimum now that we're cleaning. I'm going to go ahead and switch to my cleaner. And if y'all are using alcohol, this is when you would use it instead. But I'm going to switch to this grease and wax remover. We're going to put a little bit thin coat on our towel and then wipe it across every bit we can on here. All right, well, we got the good surface good and prepped, and look at all the crap that came off of that, even after using the all-purpose cleaner. So this is a must. Be sure you use it or alcohol. All right, well, I went ahead and painter's taped this before sanding, and for the reason is because this is so close to areas I don't want sanded and painted. I figured go ahead, put it on there, it'll stop me from scratching stuff. So next we're just going to get out our 300 grit sandpaper, go to town. The reason we want to sand is so that the paint has something, and the primer has something to stick in. Kind of made a first pass at sanding here. As you can see, these were actually metal, but it shouldn't matter. We're using a metal primer anyways. On the plastic it works better. So I just kind of sanded these evenly to get a good texture on them. I used circular motions with the sandpaper. Worked pretty good. And the plastic one, you don't have to go quite as good. You just want to get even.
And this doesn't have to be perfect, you know, especially in your taping and stuff. But the big thing here, you know, don't over sand, just evenly sand. It doesn't even need to be a whole lot of sanding. Just enough to get, you know, some scratch marks and some teeth or texture everywhere on it that you want painted. Also, we're gonna need to change our gloves after this because I've got the sand and dust all over my gloves. But before we get there, let's go ahead and prep the surface area. I've got a tack cloth here. I'm just gonna put a little bit, do it one more time before painting and putting on the tape before painting. We're going to clean it one last time. A little much. All right, let's start with these then. We're just going to use our tack cloth and go over it one more time. Also, I went ahead and used the air gun on this. It's a good idea before doing this part. Just make sure you get all the dust and grease and stuff from your hands off of the area.
A few moments later.
All right, well, once you got that cleaned off pretty good, we're ready to go ahead and start doing our final tape for our primer. Also, go ahead and change out your gloves. All right, as you can see here, I'm slowly taping it off. If you've got any round edges, you can, because you have a straight line, you can just keep at it, going around it, and you'll eventually get a circular line there. I could add one more piece right there. Just get it as close to where you need it as possible and push it down so no paint, once we start priming, is going to seep in. Really big point here with the taping is you can see here this little part cracked up right there. You want to make sure you have a double layer anywhere around a crack or anything like that, just so paint's not going to work its way in there and get the stuff we don't want painted.
A few moments later.
All right, well, got everything set up. I was going to go in the garage, but decided to just do it out here for one big thing, and that my ignition button is sitting on that, so can't start the car to move it out there. As you can see, we're dealing with some wind, which is going to make it interesting. All right, well, got everything well supported. I do like to paint on cardboard right directly underneath instead of plastic, because of the fact sometimes the paint will dry on that plastic, and whenever you're spraying more paint, it'll actually kick it up in the air and onto your object you're painting. So that's not a good idea. Also, the little button, as you can see, I've got it kind of taped down here so it gives me good angles to attack it. So the next step is just going to be getting out our primer, shaking it up, and painting. All right, I'm not going to use any filler here. I'm just going to use the sandable primer. This stuff works pretty good. I found in the past. It's just, it says ideal for metal, fiberglass, wood. But what I found is the plastic ones don't even work near as good as this stuff does. So we're going to use it. I'm just going to put on one even coat, and then we're going to come back and sand everything before we do in the second coat. All right, well, that went pretty well. I did see that something kicked up on one of these. You can see a little hair there, right on the edge of that thing. As I said, that's okay. We're gonna sand this. That's not our last coat of primer. Plus, we got plenty of base and clears to go after this. So we're gonna let this fully dry. I like to go double the time it says on your can. So read your instructions on your can for your timing. All right, well, I didn't end up waiting 2 hours. The dry time on this was only about 15 minutes. So I've waited about 30-45 minutes now. Don't want to wait too long. First thing is we're just going to pick them up with the tape on it and just kind of wipe it off with the tack rag. What the tack rag's going to do is get any kind of little paint bubbles or doohickeys, whatever you want to call them, overspray that happens on it, and it'll help eliminate a bunch of your wet sanding about to come up. That's all it takes there. Now we're just going to get our wet sanding out. a 600 grit. I typically just do it like this. Get you a little cup of water, you know, just kind of dip the sandpaper in there and then go to town wet sanding on the pieces. We will see that it does knock off a lot of the primer you put down, but that's fine. Like I said, we're gonna put on another coat. All right, well, everything's dried off pretty good now. I'm gonna go ahead and put on a heavy coat of primer next. Only thing we're doing between this step and the base is doing a quick tack. So make sure you get it painted pretty heavy but even. All right, well, that's a nice even coat over the whole thing. It's fully dry and ready for our paint, so I'm gonna shake it up, get it ready. Start with these back pieces. And you do want to kind of separate them a little bit so you don't get spray from one onto the other. Test our paint. Pretty good. Let's start applying. We're gonna do a light coat just like before, and then move heavier as we go. Well, I think that's pretty good for our first base coat. We're gonna let that dry twice as long as the packaging says on here. All right, well, the paint is looking freaking excellent. It applied really smooth. There's no clear on that. It's still really shiny. It's looking good. All right, well, I'm confident it dried pretty good, so I'm gonna go ahead and shake up our can of paint, put one last thick coat of base on. All right, well, I think that's a pretty thick coat I'll put on there. Hopefully that'll do for a final coat. I'm gonna let that dry a long time, let it harden, and then come back with a clear. All right, and just to prepare our bottle here, a clear coat, it said to take the top off, put it on the bottom, like so, and then you slam it down. Well, I hope that worked. It's supposed to release the hardener into the clear coat. Shake her up. And we should be good to paint. Now, once you mix the hardener, you only have about 2 days paint with that clear coat before it's no good. One thing you can do to test if you're ready to clear is by pushing on the areas of the paint that's on the tape. You don't have to worry about fingerprints and stuff being there, but basically you want to make sure when you push it down it's not leaving, you know, a big fingerprint. You know, the paint's drying. That's getting pretty close. I'm gonna let it sit another 10 minutes and then we're gonna go ahead and apply the clear. We're ready for the clear, and that is not it. Here we go, clear coat. And shake it up another time really good. Make sure that hardener in there is mixed in. Give it a test fire. Looks good. Now with the clear, we want to be even as possible, pretty thick, and go with the flow of the contour of it so that we don't have a whole lot of overlap. All right, I think that's a good first coat on that. Work on the buttons now. All right, well, that's pretty good for the first coat of clear. We can go ahead and let that dry. Get ready for the second coat. Well, the results end up really good. It's not the same color as the car, unfortunately, but it's inside, so not as big of a deal. And I think the metallic flakes on it, everything else look really good. It isn't quite shiny yet. We've still got more clear coating to do, but I think we're just after one more coat of clear, because we are running out of light tonight, that I'm gonna call her good. 2 coats and we'll remove the paint, and tomorrow we'll put on some polishing, let it harden for a good 24 hours. So let's go ahead and get that third coat, or second coat, excuse me, of clear put on and go from there. We can go a little bit thicker on this one. You don't want to go super thick, but you do want your clear to be really nice, evenly coated. And as before, we're going to follow the contour of the plastic.
A few moments later.
Well, I think that looks pretty good. It is a little cloudy right now until it dries, but once it dries, it should be pretty good. Nice even coat on there. So we'll see how that ends up. It may still take some polishing, we'll see. Well, the results speak for themselves. Wow. One thing I did skip out on here is just removing the tape. You want to do it basically, you know, use your judge, your finger test on the tape, just like you would apply another coat. You know, wait till it's sticky, but you're not leaving fingerprints. And then you're ready to pull the tape off carefully, because that paint is still fragile. You don't want to touch it at all. In fact, one thing you might do is just pull it away from the edges so it's not sticking, and then wait for it to fully dry before removing all the paint. So here's the finished result. And I mean, for rattle can, that is probably the best paint job I've ever done on a car. What do you think, Bretta? Pretty good? But I mean, it's not entirely just perfect. If you get really close, you can see where I could have undersprayed here. It's really hard with the clear. You kind of want to find a happy medium. If you don't spray enough, you're going to leave little spots where it's, you know, the clear didn't make a complete pool, or whatever you want to do, a fluid, or whatever you want to call it. So as you can see here, there's some little imperfections down there where it's not flat. So there's a happy medium between not enough where you get that effect, and too much to where it starts running, which is even worse. So it's better to be on the not enough side than the too much side. As you can see, I could have been a little bit better with my masking and my tape in the beginning, so I wouldn't have had that happen, but I think all in all, it's really freaking good. And I still need to polish all these, so they will even get shinier than that. Because these ended up so good though, I'm just gonna go for a finishing polish and call it a day. Well, it ended up just awesome in the car, I think. I still got one of these not quite tight, but I'll get that figured out. Anyways, it just looks freaking awesome in the car. Look at that. Much better. Adds a nice contrast there. We've got it on the button here. Looks great. Really looks good on the doors, especially with the blue stitching.
Well, as you can see, the results ended up really freaking good. This is honestly the best paint job I think I've ever done with, you know, car parts and stuff like that. I have to say it's probably a lot to do with the clear coat I used. That stuff works good. I've had horrible results in the past using duplicolor of cloudiness or bubbles or, you know, bad drying, whatever. Plus it's got a hardener already built into it, so you don't have to worry about sealing the paint or anything like that. Really good product, and for a rattle can I was really impressed. So let's go ahead and do the in-car montage and show you all the results in depth. And again, if y'all have any questions or anything like that, I try to answer every comment left, so go ahead and hit me up below and I'll try to do my best to answer your questions. Thank y'all so much for watching my video, and I hope y'all enjoyed this.